Seven Deadly Sins could have been a great anime, but it ended up sucking. Hear me out though, this show wasn't bad for the first 2 seasons. I'm going to give you 3 aspects where Seven Deadly Sins failed and why it ended up being such a bad anime. The first aspect is the plot, obviously. The first 2 seasons were great. We had exciting fights, cool new characters, and plenty of mysterious intrigue. But that quickly fell off after the second season due to poor idea execution. See, the introduction of Escanor was my favorite part of Seven Deadly Sins. He was such a shocking character because the 10 Commandments had been absolutely whooping up on the Sins until that point. But Escanor kind of fell off after the second season. Some of the power-ups and new characters were cool, but the roster just kept getting bigger and bigger to the point where I lost interest. You're telling me that there are demons stronger than the 10 Commandments and yet we spent an entire season on fighting them? Maybe the show overstayed its welcome for me. I thought Arthur's arc was pretty cool too, but then he straight up dies because he used his power too early. I know that he gets a resurrection, but come on, the plot just kept getting more and more convoluted. Oh, Esterosa is actually an angel who got his memory erased, and yeah, Escanor's power isn't even his. By the way, Meliodas can't freaking die, he just gets reincarnated. It just gets to a point where I sit back and say, if nobody can actually die and every plot point turns out to be a lie, then why would I continue to watch a show with no consistency? I think that's where most of the plot troubles lie, being consistent with the rules of the universe. I can't exactly suspend disbelief when everything keeps changing, and that's where my next point comes into play. The power scaling is incredibly inconsistent. Oh, Meliodas is the captain of the 7 Deadly Sins, so he is the strongest member. Actually, King is stronger than Bon, Deanne, and Meliodas combined. Actually, Escanor is the most powerful sin of all. You see how that could get frustrating and annoying, right? They tried to fix the whole power ranking system thing by adding power levels, but that was a straight up mess. Hawk saw that a person's power level could change basically at any time, so that demonstrated how variable the system was. I get that the power levels were just to show relative strength, and that's fine. My gripe is with the fact that it didn't really service the plot all that well, and even if it did help out, it was kind of a lazy way to define strength. I just hated that the story could not show us what the power scaling looked like or even give us a chance to speculate. It was like, wow, Bon is as strong as the captain, but actually he's the weakest of the sins. How am I supposed to know who the underdog is in each fight? How am I supposed to be surprised when someone loses? I couldn't correctly gauge people's powers and strengths, so I ended up not caring what happens to the characters anymore. Shonen anime has a lot to do with sorting out powers, so that the viewer can determine upsets and underdogs. 7 Deadly Sins power scaling was a train wreck. But on to my last point, the animation dropped off hard in the end. We saw some pretty rough stuff, and although I never like to criticize the overworked animators in Japanese studios, I just have to say that it was not the best work that they have done. It's not a personal issue that I have with them, I just don't want to watch something if it doesn't live up to basic animation standards. I'm not going to watch a 50-year-old anime with poor animation quality. I'm not going to torture myself like that. So if there's an anime with subpar animation, I will be extremely reluctant to watch it, and so that's why 7 Deadly Sins stopped being a show that I enjoyed. The first 2 seasons actually had really good animation, and then the rest of the series had very mediocre animation. I'm not an expert, but let me just say that it was not enjoyable to look at. I think that's a fair assessment. Well, there you have it. 3 reasons why 7 Deadly Sins failed at being a good anime. If you just take the first 2 seasons, you have a solid 8 out of 10 anime in my opinion, but I just didn't really follow the plot after season 2. The power scaling made no sense to me, and I disliked the animation starting in season 3. So while I really loved this show in the beginning, it ended up being another forgettable anime by the time it finished. Don't even get me started on that CGI movie they put out. RIP 7 Deadly Sins. What could have been. That's it for me. This is the Eagle-Eyed Samurai signing off.